From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, want to lose weight in the new year?
It's a great way to kind of get motivated, be held accountable because your pet needs to go out for walks.
Why your pet may hold the answer.
Well, welcome to the farm. This is the Grow Pod Smart Garden.
A new way of farming on a very small scale right in your home. And a reality check on the 2019 corn and soybean crops could be coming this week.
And we could see some revisions here. 2019 was a very difficult year for farmers.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Commodity markets on pause this week, waiting for a big report from USDA due out tomorrow morning. The supply-demand report will include the final tally of 2019 production. Those numbers have been elusive given the challenges of the last season, including a late and slow harvest. Allendale putting out its pre-report estimates ahead of USDA. It's lowering its planted and harvested acreage for both corn and soybeans. On the production side, Allendale calling for nearly 13.6 billion bushels of corn on an average yield of 166.7 bushels to the acre. Now, soybean production is forecast at 3.5 billion bushels on a per acre average yield of 46.7.
It's a WASDE report, so World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates. It's also our quarterly grain stocks reports, and it's also the production recap for last year. All of these numbers are numbers that are very highly contested, and so this is going to be a market mover very likely. Now, looking at the trade guesses, it's surprising to me that the trade is not very bullish or overly bullish on what the expectations are for the production numbers. But then very quickly, I think we should turn our attentions to quarterly grain stocks. That number might be the biggest number on this report. We've had a very strong cash market in corn, and there's been a lot of people out there, end users included, saying, hey, this corn just isn't out there. So if that's the case, that should show up on this quarterly grain stocks report, and that's where a bullish surprise may come from.
Allendale also lowering U.S. ending stocks with corn, soybeans, and wheat all well below year-ago levels. Now, final numbers for winter wheat seedings, also part of this report. Allendale expecting acreage to be just a touch higher than last year at 31.2 million acres. Just as soon as the numbers are released from USDA, we'll bring those to you online and on air. China has suspended its plan to require 10% ethanol in the nation's fuel supply this year. Reuters is quoting sources who have been briefed on this. The China National Development and Reform Commission said in a December meeting with ethanol producers and oil producers that they would halt the rollout of the ethanol effort nationwide, but it would still be in place in some provinces that started the process. The U.S.-China Phase 1 trade deal could be signed by this time next week, but that may not be welcome news for some countries. Reuters says one Brazil farm official says that his country could lose recent gains it's made in the global soy market during the trade war. The Brazilian Deputy Secretary for Agriculture Policy telling reporters the South American country can react and export to other markets. How soon before the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement gets approved by the Senate? It's now scheduled to be debated and amended next Wednesday. That's after the deal was referred to 6 other Senate committees for review. The Senate Finance Committee voting to advance the legislation earlier this week. Still, Washington sources say the deal is fully expected to easily clear the Senate, possibly late next week. But the combination of additional committees considering the implementing legislation and the still pending impeachment trial in the Senate could change the timing. 2019 was tough on the dairy state. New numbers show Wisconsin lost more than 10% of its licensed dairy farms. Now, according to NASS, a total of 818 farms shuttered in 2019, putting the state total to start the year at 7,292. More than 2,000 dairy farms have closed or sold out in the last 3 years in that state. Despite the falling numbers of farms, the state's dairy herd has held nearly steady, with milk production down only about 1.5% in the last year. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen is continuing to track some active weather systems that will push across the country later this week, including rain, snow, and ice. She joins us with an update.
Yeah, Clinton, it's going to get quite messy, especially in the eastern half of the country as we get into our Friday, Saturday, and Sunday time frame. This is just a snapshot from Friday in the evening. Now, this low pressure system, this whole front, between Friday and Saturday night really doesn't make a whole lot of movement from what you're seeing right now. And what that's going to mean is we're going to see some heavy rain in spots. We're also going to see a very wintry mix. So we're going to see a fair amount of potential freezing rain on the north side of that cold front, so especially up in the Great Lakes area. And then we're going to see some snow. So this is just going to be a really sloppy system, but heavy rainfall is a big problem, and we could see some flooding issues as well. All right, so let's think of something maybe a little bit warmer. This picture is sure to warm your heart on a cold day. Aaron Fleemer over in Pierce City, Missouri, sending us this picture of a working cattle as a family. As you can see, we may have a future producer in training. Thanks so much for sending us that picture, Aaron. And I'll have more on your national forecast coming up.
We're seeing all kinds of cool gadgets coming out of this year's CES show in Las Vegas, and one U.S. startup thinks it's come up with a solution for a hydroponics farm that fits right in your kitchen. This mini bar-sized device houses a small farm its creators say could revolutionize how we think and consume herbs and lettuces. The Grow Pod was created by two Indiana-based scientists who used to work for NASA. Their device simply connects to a power source, Wi-Fi, and water, and is ready to go. Users will be able to purchase the Grow Pod with small pods that contain the nutrients and seeds needed to grow lettuce and herbs. The creators say one Grow Pod can sustain up to 60 plants, and the inner tubes to which the pods are attached spin, so the plants at the front are always those ripest for harvest.
We fell in love with the technology because it democratizes agriculture. It doesn't matter what your climate is, it doesn't matter what the environment's like outside or the soil quality in your region. We could actually allow you to have a portable agricultural farm in the consumer's home.
So far, the Grow Pod is at the prototype stage with a price currently sitting around $2,000. The company hopes prices will fall once it goes into mass production, which it plans to do later this year. And we'll show you other interesting offerings from the ag world at this year's show. That's coming up tomorrow on Ag Day. Still coming up today, more thoughts from one industry expert ahead of USDA's big report on what it may or may not say. And later, keeping your New Year's resolution with a little help from your four-legged friends in today's Ag for Your Health. U.S. agriculture exports had a big month in November. Exports totaling $12.66 billion in November. That's up from $12.08 billion in October. Now, it represents the biggest monthly total since March of 2018. For the fiscal year 2019, U.S. ag exports totaled more than $135 billion. That was against imports of a record $131 billion, adding up to a trade surplus of $4.5 billion, the smallest since 2006. The corn market retreated to session lows after the weekly ethanol report showed a slowdown in daily production and use. Here's an update from the CME.
Today in the grain market, soybeans were on the rise. A solid exports number report came in from the Census Bureau, and it says that the November of 2019 was the largest since November of 2017. Now, we're getting some of this information a little bit late, but it certainly gave the futures a shot in the arm that it was looking for. Now, that Census Bureau came in, and it wasn't as good for the corn side. Hence, corn was a little bit steady today. The markets are still awaiting that USDA report that's coming up on Friday, especially with the uncertainty and the geopolitical issues that are going on. I think that it has the market a little bit on hold. Let's not forget, though, that the trade deal is going to be signed soon. We're just keeping our fingers crossed. So there's a lot in play, but that's kind of holding the corn market steady.
Chris Robinson with TJM Institutional Services, our guest here in studio today. Chris, let's talk about this corn market, because that's something that we've been kind of watching and hoping to see a little strength and continued strength in. What's your read as we start the new year?
Well, it's all going to come down, I think, to weather and demand, like it always does. I don't think we've seen the type of recovery that a lot of people were hoping for.
Sure.
2019 was a year actually where we had a great opportunity between May and July, right? And then it collapsed. And I think a lot of people were surprised to see that $1.10 collapse. Now, we fought back a couple times, but I think the number one thing we're going to have to watch and see is what happens to the weather in South America. And also, will we get more demand? Now, there's a story out there floating around that the Chinese may start taking more ethanol from us.
Right.
If that happens, that's going to be a positive for demand And I think that's, if there's a big what if, it's will we get that type of demand, because that would certainly help underpin these prices. But the other thing we've got to watch too is, what are the stocks numbers going to say on this next report?
Yeah.
Historically, that January report can be pretty volatile. And so I think a lot of people will be waiting for Friday to see what happens.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of waiting to see where those stocks come in, right? That should give us a read on maybe what the acreage mix is going to look like going into spring planting, right?
Yeah, and are we going to have another year like we had last year where we had delayed planting? And so we'll see. I think a lot of people, plus you've got to also talk about the bushels that are still in the field, right? That's going to be the key. How is the USDA going to count those? How is that going to come into the supply and demand issue? So, with the market sitting the way it is, corn has not had the type of action that we've seen recently with soybeans with a great rally. We had a nice rally in wheat, $1 off the lows, and corn has been struggling, which is kind of unusual. Usually corn's the leader for wheat. So we'll see if we can get a flip there, and corn hopefully will catch up with the rest of the grains.
Yeah. Do you think we'll get all the answers we're looking for in this next report, or no?
No, I think that typically, once the report comes out, you're going to have, the arguments set in right away. That seems to be the status quo. But it will go a long way towards solidifying, at least these are the hard numbers that we're all going to have to deal with, like them or not. This is what we're going to have to deal with. So that's why Friday's a big number.
Well, it starts off another argument, right? For several more months. Appreciate it, Chris. Yep. Thanks so much. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
To sign up for a free trial of Chris's market newsletter, visit therobinsonreview.com or call him directly at 312-638-8868.
NOAA says last year ranked as the second wettest on record for the contiguous U.S. with more than 34 inches of total precipitation, almost 5 inches above the average. And we know it was a wet year, especially there in the middle of the country.
Oh, absolutely. And it still is quite wet in the nation's midsection when you look at all the soil moisture profiles and such. And we're going to be adding more to that, especially a little bit further to the east of some of the wettest areas over the past year. Let's take a look. Somewhat quiet, at least in the nation's midsection, as we head through our Thursday. High pressure control of the eastern seaboard, but this is a system to watch, and it's also going to be kind of wet out west as well, as we have a couple of lows that will bring some rain and upper elevation snow. But this is the doozy that's going to really pick up some more Gulf moisture as we get into the next couple of days. Let's put this into motion. You can see that moisture starting to increase as that front moves a little bit further to the east. Notice the north side of that is looking at snow, but we're going to see a secondary low here as well, and that's going to help to pick up even more moisture as we get into and shoot some of that more moisture up as we get into our Friday as well. So look at that heavy rain in parts of southern Illinois and into Indiana as well. Again, models can still change though as we get into the next couple of days. So as we get through the day on Friday, here comes that second low, and you can see that moisture continuing. You can see that cold air being wrapped around on the back side of that, so some snow and some freezing rain here. Even in parts of the Midwest, that's all going to be shooting up into the Great Lakes area, and that's where it's going to be sticking around for several hours at a time. So we're going to be looking at some areas with some icy conditions, the snow, and heavy rainfall. So this is what we're expecting as far as precipitation over the next 24 hours. Check this out as the rain really starts to come down. A lot of areas over an inch and then even over 2 inches there, but we're going to be adding more to it. This is only through 7 o'clock Friday. So Friday night through Saturday night, even to Sunday, we're going to be adding more to that. So some flooding rains are definitely a possibility. Now, snowfall has been mainly in the west over the past 24 hours, and as you add the next 24 hours, you're going to see that especially along the Canadian border, but then you could see some of that spreading into the plains, but a lot of that's just in the higher elevations of the west. Look at the cold air at Bismarck, only 14 degrees today, but there's a big warm-up as you get down towards Texas where you have 78 degrees there. A little cold in the northeastern United States as well. Heading into the overnight, temperatures getting down below zero in parts of the north central United States. That warm air remains in the southeast, 50s and 60s there. And into tomorrow, high of only 0 in Bismarck. And you could see that colder air coming in on the back side of that front. Let's look at that jet stream. Trough in the west, ridge in the east, those warmer temperatures there. But watch what happens. The trough continues to move to the east, and that stormy weather is right on the east side of this trough. As we head through the rest of the weekend, things kind of flatten out a little bit. Still some cold air in the west. That's going to continue as the cutoff low comes through, and then into the latter part of next week, we're still going to see a bit of a trough in the Great Lakes. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Snowflake, Arizona, look for snow showers with a high of 43 degrees. Galesburg, Illinois, breezy with rain with a high of 52 degrees. And Sun Valley, Pennsylvania, mostly sunny with a high of 27.
Impossible Pork gets called out for what it isn't by a leader in the pork industry. We'll explain. And cattle producers get some good news to ring in the new year. That's next in our Drovers Report. Cattle producers had to be excited at the start of the new year with higher prices and improving market leverage. Drover says fed cattle prices have increased 20% since the fire at a Tyson processing plant last August. Last week's fed cattle trade resulted in average profit margins of about $150 per head for feedlots. That's their best margins in nearly a year.
At the same time, packer margins have seen steady decline since their record profits of nearly $500 per head last August. Rising fed cattle prices coupled with declines in wholesale beef prices means packer margins have declined by 70 to 80% since August.
Last week, Sterling Marketing estimated packer margins at $35 per head, which is the lowest margins for packers in 2 years. We told you yesterday about the launch of Impossible Foods' new product, Impossible Pork. Now, National Pork Producers Council says the company is violating labeling laws. It says it's because Impossible Pork is not pork-based. MPPC releasing a statement, quote, "What's impossible is to make pork from plants. This is a brazen attempt to circumvent decades of food labeling law and centuries of precedents," end quote. It says while it can't keep the products from entering the market, it is working to understand them and how they are produced to ensure they are rigorously regulated. MPPC says it also wants to make sure the products are labeled in a way that makes it clear to consumers what's in them. Lots of people make a New Year's resolution to lose weight, and if you're already feeling like that's fading, there's still hope. And it starts with your dog. Details next in today's Ag for Your Health.
Ag Day, brought to you by Corvus Corn Herbicide from Bayer. Get an early season win against weeds with Corvus for end of season rewards.
Many people made New Year's resolutions to go on a diet, so they head to the gym. But research shows less than a quarter of those folks continue their healthy habits for more than a month. Barb Consiglio of the Ohio State University Veterinary Medical Center has more on how your pet may be just the partner you need to stick with your resolutions.
You gotta go have fun. It doesn't take a lot of convincing to get Mitch the Labrador to work out. Ready? Not long ago, veterinarian Lori Millward wasn't sure Mitch was going to make it, so she decided to adopt him.
He weighed 147 pounds when we took him in, and he would have to rock to be able to stand.
As Mitch began his diet and exercise plan, Lori decided it was a great opportunity to start her own. Dr. Ariel Markley, a canine rehabilitation specialist at the Ohio State University Veterinary Medical Center, says partnering with your pet can make you both healthier.
It's a great way to kind of get motivated, be held accountable because your pet needs to go out for walks.
When starting a health journey with your pet, just remember pause. The first step is to make a plan.
Making sure that things are being scheduled is really helpful. Scheduling even grocery store trips, of course, scheduling exercise.
Next, find a way to get active together, whether your pet likes to run, swim, or just play fetch.
There's even like dog yoga and dog Pilates and things like that that people can do as well.
And wellness checks are important for both of you, so when you make your vet appointment, call your doctor as well. Finally, don't forget to celebrate and reward your success, but try swapping treats for a little extra love and attention. It's a method that's working for Mitch.
When we first started him in there, he couldn't even do 2 minutes. And now he's up to 30 minutes and he walks like against the resistance just to make it harder, and so he's rocking it now.
He's down more than 60 pounds and is feeling great.
As he started to lose this weight, you could see his overall demeanor change. I go for a ride.
Lori's getting stronger as well, with the goal of running her first 5K with Mitch by her side.
The joy that running with him gives him also gives me joy. And so I feel like that is motivation alone to go out and exercise.
At the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center, this is Barb Consiglio reporting.
Now, if you don't have a pet at home to work out with, experts say it's a great idea to volunteer to walk dogs at an animal shelter or offer to help an older neighbor by taking their dog out to play. And we want to again thank Ohio State University Veterinary Medical Center for that report. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.